So in today's video, I'm sharing how to increase your self-worth and feel better about yourself. So in this video, you're going to learn 5 ways you can start to feel worthy of love in your relationships and stop feeling bad about yourself. So if you're new, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a psychotherapist and I basically help people create relationships that work. So what is self-worth? It's a little different than self-esteem. It's basically that feeling inside of feeling good enough and worthy of love, whereas self-esteem is more a balance of external validation and giving it to yourself. So the first thing you need to do to increase your self-worth is to prioritize your self-care, because people who love themselves and feel worthy take care of themselves. They go to the doctor, they eat well, they exercise. It's not perfect, but they care enough about taking care of themselves because they know the value. Because when you can take care of yourself, you're not running on empty. You're not struggling with anxiety and depression all the time because you know what you need and you take care of your needs as they pop up. This is how self-care is really a form of self-worth, because when you care about you, you're actually going to attract people who care about your needs as well. Because when we don't care about what we need, we tend to attract people that do the same, and I don't want that for you. Also, we can't expect other people to take care of us. It's really our responsibility to take care of ourselves, to make sure we're healthy, to make sure we get our needs met. Because if you're codependent, you tend to look to other people for your happiness, and that's how you give away your power. It's no one's job to make you happy, and I know that's a painful lesson. It was for me, but believe me, it's worth it. The next way you can increase self-worth is by acknowledging your strengths. So much of the time we look to others for praise and for validation. And when you feel worthy, you're giving that to yourself. You know what you're good at, you know what your strengths are, and you can actually appreciate them. One thing I want to say here is that this does not mean you're arrogant or self-centered. Part of feeling good enough is being able to like yourself and like all parts of you, not just the good parts. So some of this involves self-acceptance, but the start of that is really to acknowledge what you're good at. And if this is difficult, what I want you to do is I want you to look at what type of compliments are you getting? What do your loved ones really appreciate about you? Because I'm guessing there's a theme, and those are some attributes you can start to use to like yourself. For instance, if you've been told you're generous, you have a big heart, you're really funny, use those compliments to start to appreciate yourself, because feeling worthy is about giving this to yourself, not looking to other people for it. I want you to name one thing you're really good at in the comments, because it's really important to start to validate yourself. Now, the next way for you to increase self-worth is to develop self-trust, because to feel worthy, you need to be able to trust your own thoughts, your own experiences, your own feelings, instead of always looking to other people to validate your truth. One way to start doing this is to simply, in the course of your day, start to pay attention to what your body's telling you. Those little quirks that tell you something feels right or something feels wrong. For me, when it's a yes, I have no hesitation, no muscle tension in my body. It just feels like an absolute yes to something. When I feel like something's a no, I feel a tension in my stomach or my shoulders, or I start to grit my teeth. I have certain signs that tell me what my no is, and I want you to start honoring those. Because even when there's no physical evidence to back up your feeling, I guarantee once you look back on it, you're going to trust that it was right. Because part of developing self-trust is really just paying attention to those little feelings and gut checks that you have during the day that are trying to tell you, hey, this is a good thing, or you know what, you know this is a bad thing, and you need to listen. I talk about this a lot in my self-trust journal, because part of self-trust is developing self-love and being able to cultivate your intuition so that you can learn to trust it. Because that's when you start making better decisions in life, and especially better decisions in your relationships. One way to start building self-trust is to honor what you feel no matter what it looks like. Don't wait for the evidence to back it up. And just go with it, just for one day, and notice how different your day goes versus ignoring that voice. That's part of this work, is to be able to listen to yourself above anybody else. Now, when in doubt, you can absolutely check it out and get feedback from a trusted friend. That's okay in the beginning, but eventually I want you to really listen to your own intuition and those gut checks you have so that you can start to validate your own experience, because that is really empowering. The next way to increase self-worth is to change your self-talk. Self-talk is basically the inner dialogue we have in our head that goes on 24/7, that's all filled with our thoughts, our perceptions, our judgments about ourselves and other people. And when it's negative, it gets really nasty. And often it can be leftover messages from childhood that we just keep regurgitating in our adult lives. But here's the thing, I don't want you to judge yourself for it. Most of us have some type of negative self-talk from childhood, especially if you grew up in a dysfunctional family. That's okay. The goal here is to start identifying those negative thoughts and start to eventually change them into positive, realistic statements about yourself. Because I guarantee if you're telling yourself, well, I'm being too sensitive or I'm stupid, those are probably old messages you got growing up that don't serve you anymore. So when self-talk is negative, it's going to have a huge impact on your self-worth, and I don't want that for you. So even creating one simple positive statement that is really soothing, like I am a good person, I am generous. Take one of those compliments you've received and create a positive self-talk statement. That's going to be your starting point. Now, the next thing I want you to do in order to increase your self-worth is I want you to minimize the influence of toxic people in your life. Now, you probably already know who those toxic people are, whether it's your primary relationship, a family member, a friend, somebody who probably thrives on making you wrong and creating self-doubt. Those are the people we have to protect ourselves from, because in toxic relationships, they are not going to want you to feel good about yourself. So in toxic relationships, they often target your self-esteem and make you purposely feel bad about yourself. So you need to find ways to protect yourself. And here's how you do that. You have to remember that toxic people want you to feel bad so that they can control you. Their harsh words are more about them and who they are and their own dysfunctional intentions than who you are as a person. Who you are as a person has nothing to do with what they tell you. Remember that their abusive words are more about them trying to manipulate and control you versus who you are as a person. The problem is that when you start to believe those toxic words, that is going to really erode your self-worth and self-esteem. And that's why self-trust is so key. And I'm going to put in the description of this post my self-trust journal so that you can go grab it. Because developing self-trust is the antidote to preventing gaslighting in toxic relationships. So when you're with somebody who's toxic, you need to be mindful of your own boundaries, leaving the room if they get toxic or abusive in any way. I want you to really start guarding your serenity around toxic people. You may still be in a relationship with toxic people, so this is probably going to be a challenge. But I want you to minimize the influence they have over you. This is where creating a mantra is going to help you, is to just tell yourself this isn't about me. This is about their need for control. I am perfectly okay. And honestly, the best course of action is to leave the room because you don't want to stay when a toxic person is lashing out at you. That's not what I want for you. Removing yourself from the toxic situation and telling yourself positive, reassuring messages is a helpful way to lessen the influence of toxic behavior. So your next step is I want you to go watch my video on how to stop negative self-talk because that's your next step. Thanks so much.